time to run it back. I'm Emily Baldwin, filling in as your host for the week, but don't worry, we've still got everything you need to know from this past week in sports, from a recap of women's and men's college basketball, a recap of the NBA All-Star Game, and as always, your top plays. We've got all that and a lot more, but to start it off, Bez is ready to fill us in on what we may have missed in college hoops this past week. Bez, what do you got?
Thank you, Emily. So after football season ended, I had a bit of an identity crisis. What am I going to do now? But then I remembered college hoops, my favorite thing ever in the world. So I got 10 games from Saturday to bring to you guys. And we're going to start out in Charlottesville, where Virginia took on Notre Dame. This one was a tad closer than we thought it would be. Notre Dame, one of the worst teams in the ACC. Virginia struggled, but Kie Clark set the Virginia all-time assist record in the second half. Cool moment. Cavs topped the Irish 57-55. Now, let's head over to the Big 12, a.k.a. the best conference in the world. K-State, Iowa State. Marquise Noel puts up 20. The Cats kind of needed this one. They've been in a little bit of a slump. Iowa State is now slumping, but K-State did take this one 61-55, staying in the Big 12. TCU is back, and they are fully healthy. Mike Miles' first game back against Oklahoma State, not close. TCU hangs 100 on the Pokes. They win 100-75. There is just no easy game in this conference, and we see that with OU and Texas. Sir Jabari Rice, 24 points off the bench for the Longhorns. OU, one of the bottom teams in the Big 12, took a top 10 team to overtime. That's just how good this league is. Texas does hang on, though, 85-83. Rounding out the Big 12 hoops, Texas Tech goes into Morgantown and wins. What is going on here? Texas Tech is the worst team in the Big 12, but even is there a worse team in the Big 12? I don't know. But Red Raiders top Mountaineers 78-72. Now, for the first time since Anthony Davis was there, Kentucky sweeps Tennessee in the regular season. Kind of wild to think about considering the state of these two programs from the past and the future, but Kentucky does take this one 66-54. Now, Indiana against Illinois. This game was back and forth all game. Illinois had a big lead in the first half, but 26-12 from Trace Jackson Davis did it for the Hoosiers. They beat Illinois 71-68. Now, after a touching moment pregame to honor the tragic killings of 5 Michigan State students, Michigan did put together a really good, efficient second half of basketball, putting up over 50 points. A nice moment here where the rivalry wasn't really a rivalry. Wolverines beat Sparty 84-72. Creighton is the hottest team in college basketball right now. They went into New York, had no issues with St. John's, walk out with a 10-point W, 77-67. They have now won 9 out of their last 10. And to wrap up the weekend, we had a near buzzer beater out in Vandy as Ezra Mansion takes it to the cup right at the buzzer. Vandy beats Auburn 67-65. That's the college hoops recap for this week. Emily, what else do we have on the docket for today?
In short, more basketball. With March Madness just around the corner and much of the Big 12 ranked in the top 25, the race to the end of the regular season is on. Jackson Reed is here to fill us in on the road to winning the Big 12.
Welcome back to this rendition of KU Hoops Rundown. And like I said last week, there could be a ton of sticky stuff going on with the Big 12 as we creep closer and closer to March, and, well, that's exactly what happened. Real fast, from the game perspective, Kansas picked up 3 wins since the last time we saw you. Last Tuesday night over Oklahoma State, Saturday over Baylor, and just last night against TCU. Now, what does that mean for the conference race? Well, as of Tuesday afternoon, Kansas holds sole possession of first place, with Texas right behind them, and Baylor within striking range, but still a ways back. So let's break down what could happen with 3 or 4 games left in their regular seasons. As for tonight, Texas will host Iowa State, and with a win, the Longhorns will tie Kansas for first place, again, heading into the weekend. With a loss tonight, they will drop a full game back of Kansas with just 3 to go. Iowa State also still has an outside chance here too. They're going to need some magic, but without the win in Austin tonight, all that magic could turn to dust. But if they pull it off tonight, don't turn your back on the Clones just yet. Baylor, however, in a different situation. With their loss to Kansas this past weekend, Baylor needs to beat Kansas State in Manhattan, or else, barring something crazy, they can't win the regular season title either. Well then, welcome in Kansas State. If they beat Baylor tonight, hit a stride, they aren't out of the mix either. Put it simply, the winner of the game in Manhattan tonight between K-State and Baylor will take 3rd place in the Big 12 and have a distant chance to still win that regular season crown. The loser of that game is essentially out of the picture. But there is still a ton of college basketball to be played, and we'll be coming down the stretch next time we are here next Tuesday right after the break. Emily will set up your KU Women's Hoops updates. Stay right here.
Welcome back. Now we're not done talking about basketball just yet because we've still got Alex Diggy, who is live in studio to update us on how the women's team is looking heading into the last couple weeks of its season. Alex, how are they doing?
This week was a tough week for the Jayhawks as the women's team traveled to West Virginia and then came back home to Lawrence to play the Oklahoma Sooners. Both games were close and well fought, but unfortunately the Jayhawks fell just short in each game. Earlier in the season, the Jayhawks played West Virginia at home and won 77-58, but unfortunately this time around, the Hawks didn't have so much luck and ended the game with a final score of 62-60. Let's dive deeper into that game. Jackson played a nearly perfect game with 20 points and 9 boards. So close to yet another double-double. Franklin totaled 16 points and 5 assists. Although the Jayhawks shot 43% from the field and the Mountaineers made up the difference in their made shot percentage by taking every available opportunity. West Virginia turned 15 KU turnovers into 22 points and made a couple of threes too. The Jayhawks made a great comeback as with just 4 minutes left of regulation, they were down 60-51. After that, the Jayhawks fouled 3 times and had the final possession of the game. After a pair of missed WVU free throws, Zakiya Franklin got the ball to Jackson, but her attempt bounced off the rim as time expired. Now back in Lawrence on Sunday, number 15 Oklahoma came out on top to finish off the weekend. That final score being 86-80. Franklin scored a career-high 30 points to lead the Jayhawks, and Kurzgeter was right behind her with 24. This loss drops Kansas to 16-8 on the year and 6-8 in Big 12 play. Right now, Oklahoma and Texas are tied at the top of the conference, and Kansas is ranked 7th, but hoping to improve that later this week. In other news in KU women's hoops includes legendary coach Marion Washington being selected as a Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame finalist. Her career included 31 seasons as Kansas's head coach and led KU to a record of 363 with her time here, and she is the most winningest coach in the program's history. The final announcement will be made on April 1st, so stay tuned. This week, the Hawks are set to play the second half of the Sunflower Showdown tomorrow night in Manhattan, and this weekend, the ladies will be at home against the Cowgirls of Oklahoma State. Coach Brendan Schneider is looking to get his 500th career win with the program and hoping to make it happen as the season is slowly dwindling down. That's all I have for today, but we will be heading to Chad with a mid-majors update.
Thank you, Alex. Let's move on from the Big 12 to some mid-majors for this week's Mid-Major College Hoops Update. This week, I have 3 squads making their debut on the show, so let's hop right into it. We're starting out hot with the Liberty Flames, who currently sit in a tie for first in the A-Sun Conference. The Flames have won 10 of their last 12 and are led by Darius McGee. McGee may be a super senior, but he's really a super scorer for the Flames, shooting over 41% on the year from behind the arc. The sharpshooting Flames play at a slow pace, and maximize their three-point shots with a team clip of over 37%. I've talked about 2 Conference USA teams before, Florida Atlantic and North Texas, but this week all the hype is on UAB. The Blazers have more than just a sick logo. They're one of the best offensive teams in the country, led by a 22-point-per-game scorer, senior Jordan Walker. UAB ranks 13th in the nation in scoring and look toward a conference tournament win to go dancing. This final squad is full of real cerebral guys, real students of the game, the Yale Bulldogs. The Bulldogs are currently locked in a 3-way tie for first in the Ivy League after a big overtime win against Princeton on Saturday. Yale has a deep rotation full of balanced scorers from all levels. Bracketology currently projects them as a 13 seed. Definitely going to be one of those teams to keep an eye on for a first-round upset in March. After the break, Emily is back to preview a blog full of NBA content.
Have a nice day.
You too.
Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Make someone's day. Pay it forward.
Welcome back. It was a big week in the NBA outside of regular season play with the NBA All-Star Game on Sunday and more craziness post-trade deadline. Barry's got you on the NBA All-Star Game, but first we've got Namdi in studio to fill us in on the moves made after the NBA trade deadline.
Thanks, Emily. Last week, I gave you a breakdown over the trade deadline. Today, let's talk about how NBA contenders are still bolstering their rosters in order to make a run. I'm Namdi Onyenike, and just like the volatile trade deadline we just saw, the buy-it market has seemed not much different. If you don't know, veteran players that believe they can make a difference on a better team can request being waived by their organizations. The team will take on the remainder of the contract for the rest of the season, and the player is free to sign elsewhere. Typically, we see this after the trade deadline when veterans are shooed into deals that send them into teams who won't even sniff the playoffs. In other cases, older players who are all first-team bench warmers that might have some juice in the tank will get bought out and go to ring chase. So who's on the move this late in the 2023 season? Well, the Clippers moved Reggie Jackson at the deadline to the Charlotte Hornets, who are abysmal. The last thing they need is a veteran like Reggie soaking up minutes from young guards as they make a bid for Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes. After his buyout, the number 1 seeded Denver Nuggets, who lost Bones Highland to the same team that traded away Reggie Jackson, will be the new home for Reggie. And he's a great facilitator that can help lead the bench unit and add depth to the top seed Nuggets. Monday, we saw 2 of basketball's most animated guards receive buyouts. Russell Westbrook, who was dealt to the Utah Jazz in a huge blockbuster with the Lakers and Timberwolves, will sign with the LA Clippers, who now has an opportunity to start alongside Kawhi Leonard and Paul George or lead an incredible bench unit. The Lakers also dealt Patrick Beverley to the Orlando Magic, and Pat Bev was having none of that, so he decided to sign with the Chicago Bulls, who have their own set of problems, but it's a much better situation than the bottom feeder Magic. Finally, Kevin Love over All-Star Weekend reached a buyout with the Cavaliers. The 5-time All-Star was traded to Cleveland back in 2014 and will be remembered as one of the best Cavaliers of all time. And this Cavs team, they aren't bad, but K-Love is not going to let the young bloods do their thing in the land. And he's going to join a veteran Heat team led by Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler, who always seem to have great success come playoff time. And we'll see how all these moves will benefit their teams after the much-needed All-Star break. But let's toss it to Barry to give us a recap of this past weekend's All-Star events.
Thank you, Navi. It's been a phenomenal NBA All-Star weekend. There have been a lot of wows and surprises. Our first wow is Seattle Seahawks star wide receiver. DK Metcalf finished with 20 points and 10 rebounds. He had 6 amazing dunks, and he was the 2023 Ruffles Celebrity All-Star MVP. The NFL is supposed to drug test him this week based off how high he was dunking. But come on, this is DK Metcalf without pads. Later on that night was the Rising Stars game. The new format caught a lot of fans' eyes. It is a tournament between 4 teams with 7 to 8 players per team. 2 sets of teams play each other in the semifinals, and the winner faces off in the championship game, which were Team Pal and Team Jason. The target goal for the second game was 40, and in 2 games, with playing 1 quarter per game, Team Pal was able to get both wins. Pelicans guard Jose Alvarado, a.k.a. Grand Theft Alvarado, won Rising Stars MVP. He had 13 points the first game, and the second game he had 5, including a game-winning 3-pointer. A lot of fans have been talking about wanting this kind of format in the NBA All-Star game. Other fans want NBA All-Stars to bring 1-versus-1 tournaments to see who's a better player overall. It may come based off the updates we have seen in the past couple years, but who knows? Now, Saturday night was a night to remember. First was the Skills Challenge, which the Team Jazz won the Skills Challenge in the second-year format. Representing were Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, and Jordan Clarkson. They were first to get to 300 points. It's kind of coincidental that it's the second year in a row that a team has won for their city that represented the All-Star game. As I mentioned in last week's episode that the Team Cavs won it in Cleveland, fans really don't like this format. It rushes the players, which diminishes the players to showcase their skills. Fans already want to change in the Skills Challenge. Some want something different, and some want it back to the old format. You want to know what was entertaining for the fans? The NBA three-point contest. The timekeeper, the owner of clocks, time himself, Damian Lillard. He won his first three-point contest. This potentially will be his last. He finished with 26 in the last round to beat out Buddy Hield. He beat out the other 5 All-Stars who participated and took home the trophy. The dunk contest was also another great event. The main focus was on G-Leaguer Max McClung. He's the second G-Leaguer in NBA history to participate in the dunk contest, and he won it. It was one of the best dunk contest performances in NBA history. He nearly had all 50s. His only non-50 performance was a 49.6, which was his second dunk attempt. What capped it off for him to win was his last dunk attempt. He did a two-handed 540 slam. All the players courtside were cheering him on, and McClung earned $100,000, and it was a night for him to remember. Could this exposure get him back on a regular NBA team? Lastly was the 72nd All-Star game. Team Giannis handed Team LeBron his first career loss in the format. Jason Tatum being the NBA All-Star MVP, he finished with 55 points, the highest in NBA All-Star game history, and he was the first player in NBA history to score 50 in a regular season game, an All-Star game, and a playoff game. He made a lot of deep threes and was a big reason Team Giannis won 184-175. Lakers star LeBron James injured his finger with an attempted block in the second quarter. Hopefully, this wasn't too serious or doesn't affect him playing in the regular season, as his team is trying to make a current push towards getting in the playoffs. A lot of fans weren't too fond of seeing this year's All-Star game. They want to see more competitiveness like 2001, but you have to think, though, it's about entertainment. If their favorite players got hurt because they wanted them to take it serious, how would they feel? It's a lot to think about. Until then, though, I'm going to kick it off to Richie to update us some fire content on the NHL.
Thanks, Barry. Tatum was really him in this past All-Star game. You know who is also him? Or should I say them? The Boston Bruins. Let's not waste any time and dive right into where the NHL standings sit with just a little less than 2 months left until playoff time. The Atlantic is still being controlled by the Boston Bruins. Honestly, that might be an understatement. The whole league is being controlled by the Boston Bruins. The Bees currently have 42 wins through 55 games, which puts them on pace to finish with 63 wins, which would set a new NHL record. Not just that, but they also are on pace for 133 points, which would also set another new NHL record. The boys in Beantown are absolutely buzzing. Even though I do not expect the Maple Leafs to catch the Bruins, it is worth noting that the Leafs made a huge trade for centerman Ryan O'Reilly this past weekend in hopes of making a deep postseason run. The Hurricanes from Carolina are still out front Metropolitan, but can't seem to shake the New Jersey Devils off of their tails. The Hurricanes are in first place by 3 points and are hoping to build onto this lead. The Canes have won 3 out of their 4 first games since the All-Star break, including a Stadium Series game against the Washington Capitals. The Canes could hold on to first place position for the rest of the year, but it definitely won't be a walk in the park with the whole division, especially with the Devils and New York Rangers right behind them. The Dallas Stars are still the team to catch in the Central Division, but they are slipping. Since the All-Star break, the Stars are just 2-4 and are currently on a 4-game losing streak. This is something they cannot afford, as the reigning Stanley Cup champions, the Colorado Avalanche, are finally getting healthy and are starting to gain ground on the Stars. Only 5 points separates the two teams, and not to mention, the Winnipeg Jets are in between the two, sitting at 69 points, which is just 3 points behind the Stars in first place. The order of teams has changed in the Pacific since last time I was here, but the gap between the teams has not. The Vegas Golden Knights are now in first place in the Pacific Division with 72 points, but the LA Kings are 1 point behind them, the Seattle Kraken are 1 point behind the Kings, and Edmonton Oilers are 2 points behind the Kraken. This all equals up to the first and fourth place teams in the Pacific being only separated by 4 points. As I said last time, and as I say this time, the Pacific is an absolute coin toss, and any of these 4 teams could end up as division winners come April. As you just heard me explain, the NHL season should be nothing short of chaos the whole way down the stretch. But now let's head to a bit more chaos with Bez.
Thanks, Richie. I am not Brock Niemeyer. I am Jackson Bezdek, back again. We've got top plays for this week, 5 through 1, starting with number 5. We've got some Kansas baseball. Chase Jan's see ya ball. Game-winning home run. Well, not game-winning. Put them ahead in the 8th. KU would go on to win this game. It was the rubber match. They win the series against Valparaiso 2-1, and they take on Oakland this week. Now, number 4, staying with some KU athletics. We've got Grady Dick. KU down 17 at one point in this game. Number 4 says, not anymore. Bang. KU up 1. They go on to win by 15. Grady Dick, just unbelievable. Now, at number 3. We've got Damian Lillard beyond half court, and the net didn't even move. Dame actually shot that beyond half court. That's our number 3 spot in the All-Star game, a.k.a. the layup line contest. Coming in at number 2, John Rahm, young man with a deep one. This would put him ahead in the tournament. He would go on to win. He is currently number 1 in the world right now. John Rahm, the man. Number 1, another man, Mac McClung in the slam dunk contest. The last round. What does Mac have in his bag? A full 540. Oh my goodness. Mac McClung, G-Leaguer, winning the dunk contest. And that's all the top plays I have. Emily, what's our feel-good moment of the week?
Bez, for my feel-good moment, I'm staying local. Some players from the 2022 championship team had their chance to make their way back to the Fog, including Ochai Agbaji, Christian Brown, Remy Martin, Chris Tehan, and Mitch Lightfoot. And the best part, they got to watch the current Jayhawks come back from a 17-point deficit and win by 16 against the number 9 ranked Baylor Bears. That's all I've got for my feel-good moment of this week. Be sure to tune in to Playmakers on Friday at noon and On the Clock on Friday at 1 to stay up to date on sports until we see you again next Tuesday to Run It Back.